Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So, heading over to the chickens, because of course they're starting to run empty after the night. I don't remember, yeah, I have a little bit of feed here. So, let me get that dumped in. That will get them some food to keep them moving along throughout the day. So, as I mentioned last time we were together, kind of the next big thing is going to be upgrading the tractor. And I kind of, certainly need to do it in steps. I actually found a low-cost medium tractor and a low-cost, per se, large tractor. The medium tractor starts at $54,000, the large tractor starts at $100,000. So I probably need to go to the medium first, and may ultimately determine that that will be great for a while. But in the interim, all I can do is just plant away and continue to try to make some cash. So, made about $1,000 overnight. The challenge, as I've said, is going to be with the fact that these things are using 50 every hour, and that's just going to continue to increase as we get more and more chickens. So at this point, I need to, not get stuck on rocks is obviously a goal as well. So I'm going to drop the bucket. I'm going to grab my pallet fork and my trailer, and I'm going to go get some supplies from the store. Raise that up a bit so that I'm not hitting any bumps in the ground, so forth. We've obviously got our maple production, got our chicken production. We're just, at this point, settling in for, I think, some pretty dull years for a bit, because really by the time I get what I need, which is going to be really closer to $75,000 to get the tractor. I mean, I can, I guess, use it 1 year without GPS, but the challenge there, and also with a smaller engine, but I think the engine upgrade is only $2,500 on that tractor to take it up to the highest level horsepower. But at a minimum, I've got this year to go ahead and get some things done, and while I could make a little bit faster progress, or maybe a lot faster progress, by baling, I frankly just don't have the stomach for it with what I've got. So I think I'm just going to grow crops and harvest them to get what I need and just kind of keep the farm running up until that point. Alright, so fertilizer and seeds. The big bag configuration is the cheapest. So I'm going to go ahead here and just kind of get the trailer in position. And then we'll go ahead and get these loaded. So yeah, we're kind of in another quiet center, I guess. You know, I think been talking about how you get to points where you suddenly feel like you've made it. Well, I guess I got fooled a little bit, because while I was able to improve my equipment quite a bit, it's not at the level I really would want, because I can't just keep going, and I'm not at the point where I feel I could really expand. So it's a bit of a red herring, I guess, where I thought, yeah, I'm in, you know, this is really what I want, this is really great. Whoop. Wasn't quite low enough there. So let's see. Just hard to... Goodness gracious. Okay. So maybe my attempt to try to get these together is a wasted effort. So a lot of pushing and shoving without a lot of success here. So I'm kind of letting you ride along so you can just see. So I think it's hard sometimes to tell what the situation's really like. I don't understand. Because it was letting me do it, and now I can't get my forks in there. Like, why? Let me see if I come at it a bit of a different angle. But no, I think it's, you know, I'm just trying to help you understand, if you've never done survival farming, just how tedious and challenging it can become. Alright. So that's kind of what I wanted. I'm probably bordering on the point where this tractor's going to fall down, but... Alright, so we'll put that down. Should be able to pull out of here. There we go. But yeah, this is kind of the slog where it really becomes, you know, you understand some of the survival side of it. You know, and we certainly had that exposure. Whoops, let me strap those bags down. Because otherwise they'd fall off and then I'd be trying to pick them up. And that would be even more frustrating. So, whoop. Oh boy. This ain't good. And that's what I was worried about. I'm on top of this bike. Let's see. What if I do that? Alright. So this is just a morning for me here. I don't know what else to say. It's been a lot of struggle just to get moving along. It does not bode well for how the rest of the experience is going to go. So, sorry, I'm trying to change my differential as I drive and nearly running into trees because I'm doing it all one-handed, steering and then going ahead and putting things down. I guess I'll continue to, well, no, I'm going to bring this stuff down because I kind of had left my supplies up here, but there's not really a reason to be doing that. I can leave the trailer over here and then just bring my implements to that location as I need to. So we'll drop that. I don't know that I'm going to need that trailer for anything other than supplies, so I should be able to leave the bags there and then just kind of drive alongside and refill. So again, the nice thing here is, whoops, that we'll be able to refill and, or not refill, we'll be able to fertilize and plant. So I'm trying to drive and talk and think at the same time, and once again that obviously seems to overwhelm my capacity. So let me open this up. There we go. So get our seeds topped off. Get our fertilizer topped off. It's not cooperating. There we go. So again, 830 of each. So the question becomes, what do I go with? Alright, so I am going to go ahead and put some sorghum in the ground. Just because why not, right? Something to do in between. I think we'll be okay. I may get myself into trouble now that I think about it, with not having enough feed for the chickens, because basically probably next crop I'm going to have to do it as chicken feed, which is the other challenge I have right now. Is I need to be making money, and I'm not going to be able to do that very well while I'm having to make crops to feed chickens, but it's what I've got. So just as always, trying to get the headland done here, and as always I tend to underestimate this tree, so let me try to get that right this time. I think I did okay. It's not that I'm underestimating the tree, I'm just underestimating what I need to do to not fly off the field there, but I did it. And once again, you know, it's the example of why it's just really tedious to try to do this without some sort of guidance assistance, you know, with GPS. Is a fancy way of what I'm saying there. So now I am gonna realign myself here, because I did set my GPS, but then I forgot. I actually prefer, when I'm going this way, to kind of align with this part of the field, because it just works nicer. It's more straight across. For the rest of the field here, well, that's not, actually it's a little crazy now. Well, no, I guess it is. So yeah. So I'm going to run another headland here, and I guess I'll continue along because there's just not a lot I've got. You know, in the past I've kind of cut out a lot of things because I had other things that I knew I was going to be able to do in the short term, but we are just in a planting, harvesting cycle right now. So until we get to, say, 80, probably just to be safe, let's target 80,000, because depending on what timing of anything is, if I need to go just like I did now and get some supplies, we're going to struggle with that. But what I would plan to do at that point, get myself and swap out to a medium-sized tractor. And I do have to remember, I guess, I might be able to eke this out sooner because I can sell this White Boss, and obviously then I'll get some money back. But I don't think I'm going to get, well, over 10 or 15,000 for it. I haven't looked, honestly. But maybe the White Boss would pay for my GPS, basically, is what I'm saying at that point. Alright, so now I'm just trying to see. Need to move my line over a bit. So get our planter or our seeder down. Because that's the other thing I could do, is I could go for that more inexpensive planter I talked about and plant some different crops, but I think at this point my focus just needs to be, it's just going to be postponing and making the pain worse than it needs to be without just focusing on one thing, which is get myself a tractor, because the tractor is the common denominator across everything. I need the tractor for so many of the jobs. I'm feeding the chickens, I'm hauling any good whoop. Am I going to hit that trailer? I got too close there. I'm trying to be efficient, and instead I'm taking longer than I need to because I'm driving dangerously close to things that I don't need to be. But trying to just make progress and just change things so that I have something changing frequently, I think does all of us a disservice. I mean, I'm not going to do anything substantial because I have spent money on a planter, and then I just put myself further behind on the target that we just talked about that gets me, I think, a broader impact of getting a new tractor. So I think that needs to be the focus, and that is what I'll be doing. But I do really have a difficult time now that I'm starting to figure out the chicken enclosure. I don't like the fact that it has such a small feeding trough. And I just am really not thrilled with the prospect of even potentially changing that out. Because, I'll be selling off chickens, I'll be dealing with all the ground issues. I don't know that there's anything that has a footprint that small, so I'd either have to really shrink the possible operation, because part of what I liked about it was, well, with 500 chickens, I may get a substantial amount of egg production going once that's happening, that then makes something like what we're talking about happen a lot faster. Because typically eggs are 2,000 to 2,500 a thousand. So depending on how quick that is, I don't know that I've ever really looked at like how many eggs a chicken would lay in a month. Is it more than one? Is it more than 10? And so with 500 chickens, I mean, I basically just need each chicken to lay an egg twice. to get 1,000, which doesn't on the surface sound like a lot, but I'm not quite clear on how that will work. So, this isn't as bad as I thought, I guess. I was a little concerned that the fertilizer and seeds seemed to be going pretty quickly, but I think that was because I had a little bit of a mental burp that was making me think like I was at 1,000 liters for each of these. So I was like, oh my goodness, I'm approaching 50%, but obviously the percentage is there, and you can see it's substantially better than that. So just trying to be careful, turn off things at the end, because otherwise it still spews out fertilizer. Whoops, I think I might have created a bit of a touch-up problem there. But yeah, 34,463 is where we're at now because of having to buy some supplies, so we made a dent, obviously, in our savings. It's the old, it takes money to make money, and I think there's no place truer than that than in farming, where it's always that trade-off and razor's edge of what am I going to need to do to get something in the ground or to do something around the farm to generate some money. So as I figured or said, there's the touch-up work I need to do, but that was not too bad, so we're all set there. We'll get a good portion of this cleared off, and then of course we have that little curve that's always a bit of a problem. So as I think about things, my other thing I just can't clearly settle on is what do I do as far as the field do I do something with the field expansion up here? I mean, I'm thinking almost certainly I'm going to get rid of that tree that's in the corner and do something there, because it's a visibility headache. It's a headache here even as I go through. I mean, I'll clear this with the seeder, but when I'm running around the implements, the harvester, all the other things, it's always a bit of a challenge. But we've also talked about heading, the way I'm going to head now. I'll call it up and down, but, because nothing's really specifically north-south. But as I head this way, I believe this is steeper, and I think it gets steeper still beyond where I've placed this field. So it would seem that my expansion should really be lengthwise. I have to swing out further here, so hold on. Hopefully not making everybody super dizzy doing that, because I know what I'm trying to do, so I kind of know where things are headed. But if you're just watching this, you may be like, whoa, may be very uncomfortable. But, I do like the fact that once again I've gotten myself tools that do make the job simpler at this point, because I just have to do less tasks, where before obviously I was fertilizing and planting and doing those separately. Being able to do this together, then turn around and do the weeds, which is what I'll do next here, is I'll run the weeder through, because obviously I've got weeds. I'll always have those, because that's just the nature of things. Seeds aren't pristine, There's always a little bit of seeds that you don't want in there that cause some sprouting of weeds, and then obviously just weeds in the environment. Whoops. It's also hard to tell, but yeah, I could see I was losing some fertilizer, so obviously I had not turned off my seeder as I thought I had. But this will get me fully planted with sorghum. Nice thing certainly is that I'm always bouncing off those trees, but that we are at above 50% on everything, which means I'll be able to just redo the field again in the next planting cycle, for the most part, without having to do anything. Now, depends on what crop I pick and so forth, obviously, but if I was to redo sorghum, it would seem to work. So I'm going to place this a little bit higher here. Although, well, I'm not sure now, because as I try to get things to the chickens, there's not a great place. Alright, let me put it back, because I was actually parking it a ways back, and now that I realize it, it probably is the best place for it, because it's out of the way. I can get those other implements, one of which I need to go get now, which is the weeder, because otherwise I don't really have a clear path out. Alright, so we've got the weeder. Just taking a peek. I want to make sure I'm good with the water. Yeah, so I'm fine in all cases. Just continuing to sell the strawberries. I still think that's my best option because it gives me the most crop for what I'm for 1 drop of water, or 1 liter of water, whatever you want to, however we want to refer to that. Alright, so the challenge here, of course, is, other than the tracks, this is the difficulty with this job on the farm, and at this point doing it before crop sprouts, which is theoretically better, but once again it's also only 10:30 in the morning, so having the opportunity to effectively do a job, I certainly want to do things as much as I can, where otherwise I'm really in this waiting game, which is, just not terribly fun. We just have time passing by. I don't make you sit through that, but otherwise I can't easily turn around if I don't give myself some edges, because I've tried to maximize the field with the clearing I have created here, and therefore obviously I'm up to the tree line in all cases, and I don't think that's going to change. Obviously I certainly could. I could stay away from trees, or I could cut further back, but not clear the land and use it for field, but that just seems to be squandering the resources I have available to me at that point if I do that. So moving around here, this one is another tree that's super close, especially with my forks on here. It is always a challenge, but made it, so that's a win for today. But yeah, the piece to be determined really is what is the direction to expand these fields, and right now I think I have to go the route of go wide. But once again, as you can see, I'm not really straight on my impact if that makes sense. What I'm getting at is, like, if I follow the edge, I'm going to go up at an angle. Which is obviously different, or not in line with the edge of my fields, but it's still, yeah, it looks like it's too steep down that way. So there's these challenges of what's the best way to expand, and I can always, widen a field later. But I think, yeah, I just kind of follow the contours of the field, take out that line of 3 trees at least, and just keep going, because that looks somewhat level that way. It's just obviously tilted on the plane heading up that way, just because obviously that's the side of the hill we're on. So definitely a lot of options, but not probably fewer that make sense. So just, I guess, need to be careful that I'm not overthinking things, and that I just go ahead and do what I can. But the target right now will be to get myself a better tractor. I just don't want to be doing all of this and then not being able to haul and not being able to potentially expand trailers and so forth. So I'm gonna focus on that. So that'll be our target for, our next target is get myself to the point where I can upgrade this tractor, which may take a couple growing cycles or more. Obviously, it's all dependent on how all the other pieces go that are making us money, because again, I mean, thing that I'm struggling with is I should be at a much more profitable position than I certainly was in the beginning, when I was just fully reliant on crops, and that I've got strawberries, I've got the greenhouse. And that's another option. I could always add more greenhouses and just continue to have that pump things out, but that becomes a bit repetitive, and having everything be passive income isn't exactly what I'm looking to do either. I don't mind a good amount of passive income that lets me not be concerned about base costs and so forth, but even getting to that point I think would be substantial, because I think the greenhouses are still 10,000 each, and by the time you get enough of those, you might need 10 of them, so you're still going to need 100,000 or something, and then maybe they're throwing out several thousand a day. But I think really what it'll be is the chickens, and my frustration with the chickens is, as we talked about, it's just I think feeding them is going to become overwhelming once we expand out to 500, but I'm going to let that play out and see what that looks like. That's going to take several years still, I believe. So I think, now at this point I've certainly kept you around long enough. I've got to finish this weeding, and then I'll be done for the day, and then I'll just kind of be advancing. I'll be back to fertilize, but as we know with the Amazon spreader, it's 3 passes, so just as before, I'm not going to pop back in to show that. We'll be back here for harvest. We'll see how things are going, but that will be where I'll pick up in the next episode. So I'll see you next time.